So in this chapter, we'll see how we manage users in Bonita. And first, let's see how we define who can do a task. So basically in Bonita, not only one user, but usually a set of users, we call them the candidates, can do a task, a single instance of a task. And in order to avoid concurrent access, basically two users trying to do the same task at the same time, we set up a mechanism for the user to claim a task. And if one of the candidates claim a task, it becomes the assignee of the task, and the other users cannot actually access to the task forms. And so it's avoid having two users trying to do the same task at the same time. But to define the candidates, we have actually two options available. We have the actors and the actor filters. So we'll see in details both options in the next slide, whereas both have the same kind of prerequisite. First, both requires the users to be authenticated. So they need to be logged in Bonita portal, and they need to be known in Bonita user database. The authentication can happen on an external system, like it can be performed against an Active Directory, against a single sign-on system like the Windows authentication, or like CAS single sign-on. But still the user need to be known from Bonita database, because all the user management is based on information stored in Bonita user database. So for that, we provide in the Enterprise Edition some component to synchronize the data between an LDAP directory and Bonita user database. Now let's see how we configure the actors in Bonita. So to use actors, the first step is to declare them. So basically in process definition, you will define, it's just a name actually, it's an ID. You define one or several actors in the process definition. So you select the pool here, so the outer rectangle shape here. You go in a general tab and there are actors, and here you can do as many as you want. I can get, I don't know, the one test, for example, and you see I have a default one that is named employee actor here, for example. So you can have multiple actors like that. And then in a second step, you need to configure those actors. So you need to associate the actor, this ID, with a set of users. So you can directly map them to a specific set of users. You select individual user in your organization, or you can map them to groups and roles. So this configuration happens in the studio as well. When you click on this little wrench key icon here, you are able to configure the actor mapping. So you can see, for example, here my employee actor is mapped to groups, actually one single group, that is the Acme group here. And my test actor is currently not mapped. So I can map it to a set of users that I select individually, as I mentioned, like William and Walter, for example. Or I can map them to user with a specific role, for example. Here I have a single role in the default organization, Bonita organization members. Or I can map them to a group, like for example to the group HR here. Or as I did here, actually to a combination of all that. So for example, if I remove the role here, I can say that I want everyone that is in the HR group plus Walter and William to be able to perform tasks that are associated with a test actor. So that's actually the next step of this actor configuration. It's to associate the actor with the task. So you can do this by directly configuring the task, the actor at the task level, or using what we call the lane. So again, if I go in the studio, you can see here I have by default one lane that is called employee lane here, and it's configured to be associated with the employee actor. And step one that is within this lane, you can see that the configuration of the actor on step one is set to use the actor defined in the lane. If I want, I can override this configuration and I can manually select it, for example, the test actor for this step one. So I can have multiple tasks in this lane. For example, here I can add another one. Step two here, it can be mapped to the actor defined in the lane. So in this situation, this is employee actor, but I can override for step one and say I want to use the test actor for step one. Or I can add another lane. So I have this little lane icon here that I can drag and drop. And this second lane here, I can configure it for test actor. I can set this that I want to use the actor defined in the lane again for step one, but I will just move step one to this lane. And now if I check the configuration, it will use the test actor for step one. So that's how you configure actors. So first step, you select the pool, you create them. Then, still with the pool selected, you click on the configure icon and you map this to your organization. So using groups, role, and users. And then you associate actors either directly on the step or using a lane. One important limitation of actors is they cannot use any live data. So by live data, I refer to, for example, who started process. For example, who started process will have a different value for each individual process instance. So if I want to assign a task to the manager of the user who started a process, I cannot use actors. I cannot use the actor also, for example, to assign a task based on a condition. For example, if I'm processing invoice and for an invoice with a price higher than 10,000, for example, I want a specific user to process them, I cannot do this kind of condition using actors. So it's why we provide actors filters. So first of all, actor filters, this name is not really well chosen. It's not really filtering. It's actually a solution to build a list of users who can do the task, so to build this list of candidates, but it's totally independent of the actor configuration and it will totally override the actor configuration. Basically, the actor filter is a piece of Java code that will be executed. You can have input information and the output of an actor filter is a list of user ID. So the list of users that will be able to perform the task. And this logic is executed by default only once when the process execution reaches the step. So for example, in my process here, when I reach step number 2, instead of using the actor here, I can configure an actor filter. So for example, I want to assign this task to the initiator manager. So initiator is the user who started the process. I can say, okay, I want to assign this task to the initiator manager. Or I can say I want to assign this to the user who performed one task. So for example, here I can say, okay, I want the same user as task 1. So this is just a name for the configuration. But here I will need to enter the task name. So for example, step 1. And this is it. When I will run the process, the step 2 here will be assigned to the same user as step 1. So when we reach step 2, the actor filter will get the information about who did step 1 and create a list of candidates with only one user, with the user who performed step 1. Also, I mentioned that you cannot, that the actor filter is only executed once when we reach the step. Actually, it's not really true. You can refresh the actor filters in case the information it relies on changed. You can refresh it using the engine API. So if we compare actor and actor filters, the main difference is that actors is always up to date on the organization. For example, if you add a new user to a group and an actor is configured is mapped to all users within this group, immediately this new user can do the task pending for this actor. So this is useful, for example, if you have a new employee that joined the team to process a huge load of tasks, you will be able to instantly claim some task and perform the task. There is no need to wait for a new task to be available. The big limitation of this actor is that it cannot rely on information stored in the process or related to a specific process instance. So for example, like who started a process or some business variable values. The second option, the actor filter, the benefit is really this capability to use process information, process instance information. Also, you can work with some external system. For example, if you have a system that deals with the skills of some employees, specific skill sets of some employee, and you want to use it to assign the task to different users, a custom actor filter can use such information to dispatch the task. The limitation is that it will only be executed once. So if you produce a list of candidates with an actor filter, and like if the organization changed, this will not be reflected immediately until you refresh the actor filter using the Bonita engine API. One thing I didn't mention here is how we define who can start a process. This is actually achieved using a specific flag on one actor. If you check, you actually have it already in your when you create a process. By default, the employee actor have this little icon here is because the employee actor is the initiator actor. So that means that all users that are mapped with this actor can actually start the process. I can choose to set this to a different actor if I want. And so right now, as all employee under the group Acme is mapped to employee actor, that means all user in my organization, every user can actually start this process. Also, when we actually launch the process, Bonita tracks a lot of information, and among them it will store the user ID of the user who started the process. So that's useful, for example, for this actor filter who assigned the task to the manager of the initiator, because the initiator ID is saved, and you can use it as input for your connectors, we'll see, or as an information in your forms, for example. So that's it for the overview of the user management in Bonita. And so now it's time to move on on the exercise number 4, where we'll customize the actor configuration to only allow the manager of the process initiator to perform the validation task. And in the next chapter, we'll see how we can interact with external system from Bonita using connectors.